Hello, thanks for being in a new video. This time I have a full review of the Oura Ring 4. Let's get started. This smart ring has no official distribution in Mexico, but in the United States it is being highly promoted. So it may possibly catch your attention if you travel to the United States or if you live in another country where this ring has official distribution. Its launch price has been $399. It is not an inexpensive ring, and you should also consider that it is necessary to pay a subscription if you want to have access to all the data it is able to collect. If you don't pay that subscription, you're only going to have access to the day's information, but you can't see your history or advanced information, so they are basically forcing you to pay the subscription. And it is important for you to know that if you do not live in the United States or in any of the countries where the ring has official distribution, it is highly probable that you will not be able to use it, since to make the payment of your subscription, you need to have a billing address in the United States or in any of these countries. So in my case, I'm still using the free trial they give you, but when that free trial is over, my experience is over because I will not be able to pay the subscription. This is very important to take into account because I insist in the United States it is being advertised a lot and it is a very famous ring, but by all means consider that aspect. Now let's get to know other aspects of the ring. Let's start with the design. This one, unlike the Galaxy ring, does not come in some additional case that you can carry or carry it with. It comes available in 12 sizes. I think that's a pretty wide range, from size 4 all the way up to size 15. But it's important for you to know that it's not an equivalent size to traditional rings. So it is very important that you go to a physical store and try on the ring or the samples they have there. Or if you're going to buy it online at the official store, request the sizing kit and specifically try on the right size, because even if you have used past generations of the Oura Ring, it is not an equivalent size. Something positive and that I really liked about this ring that I have been using for several weeks is its finish. It has anti-allergenic titanium both on the outside and inside, and it's really very comfortable. Unlike the Galaxy ring that I was also using for several days, in this case I have not noticed even a little wear on this ring, and I have been using it in the same way I used the Galaxy ring, but this ring is perceived with a higher quality finish. In this case it offers a completely straight design, doesn't have any dips, and is available in 6 different colors. I think that's another section where it gets a lot of attention. It's available in silver, black, brushed silver, gold, rose gold. Also another one that's called stilts, which is kind of a matte black color. So as you see, there are a lot of options to choose from. I have the basic edition in black color, and you should know that it also comes with a little indicator, a little line, which is going to help us to place the ring correctly. So this dip should be on the inside of your hand so that the sensors are as well positioned as possible. These sensors, unlike past generations and unlike the Galaxy ring, do not protrude into the body of the ring, and that makes using it much more comfortable. The only mark it leaves on you is the one that traditional rings leave on you. Like any other ring, you are going to have this small mark, but you don't have 3 other dots marked on your finger after wearing it. It is a comfortable, lightweight ring. It has a weight range from 3.3 to 5.2 grams, depending on the size you choose. Although in this aspect, the Samsung ring is a little lighter. In thickness, it offers us 2.88 millimeters. Again, the Galaxy ring is a little thinner, but as I tell you, the sensors do not protrude, so the experience is quite comfortable, although it is thicker than a traditional ring. So you should know that in case you close your fist tightly, or you need to carry something or press with your hands, yes, you will perceive that it gets in the way a little bit. It is recommended to use it on the index finger, because it is where it can get in the way the least. If you use it on any other finger that is a little more inside the hand, it can feel much more uncomfortable when pressing. In addition to the optical sensors on the inside, it also incorporates an accelerometer to detect your activity and temperature sensors that in a moment I will tell you what they will be used for. But before we go to tell you all that, you should know that it is submersible up to 100 meters deep, approximately 330 feet, so you can go swimming and even diving with it and nothing will happen to it. It is just important that you do choose the right size to prevent it from coming off when you are in the water. Now let's count down the health-related information that this ring is able to tell you or collect. For starters, the basics, it's going to have step counting and even has automatic detection of your physical activity. For example, if you went jogging or walking one day, when you come back, you can open the application on your cell phone and it will give you this suggestion so that you can tell it what kind of activity you did. In fact, it has quite an extensive list of items that you can select. It even has household chores. So if you started cleaning the house quickly, you can also get to detect that type of exercise. And for each physical activity, it gives you a good list of items such as the duration of this activity, the time you were burning calories in an active zone, also the average heart rate you had, and the time you were in certain heart rate zones. For example, if it detected that you were in a warm-up zone, or in a calorie burning zone, or in a zone that was too high. However, in this regard, the Galaxy Ring does show some additional metrics like average speed, average cadence, and a few other tidbits. Of course, it doesn't incorporate GPS, so it wouldn't be able to plot your routes specifically like some watches do, and although you can manually start some workouts from the app, you can't see real-time information. For me, that's one of its main shortcomings against a smartwatch. Since we are all aware that by not having a screen you lose a lot of information, but it is still an accessory very focused on monitoring your physical activity. And I would have liked that at least through the mobile app you could be monitoring how your heart rate is going if you are exercising at home or if you are doing some other activity. But in this case, it can't display any real-time information. But to see more information than what this ring shows, let's go straight to the app. In the app, you will find some indicators at the top, to start with the readiness index that sort of tells you if your body is ready to exercise or you need to slow down. Notice that to give you that score, it is going to rely on multiple data it has collected about you, including your previous day's activity, your rest time, and many other things more. In this part, it will even, in a very graphical way, show you what things you would need to improve to have a better disposition according to what is shown here. And note that from all the data you can have a graph of information from past days, so it works well in that sense. The application may seem a bit long in terms of number of functions, but in general we could say that it is repetitive because in addition to showing you the layout index on the main screen at the top, it is also going to appear if you browse the main feed. So basically, it is the same information but shown in a different way. Notice that in this case, the detected activities also appear, and for example, I can press the button to see all the activities and notice that there are times where my heart rate has been higher, and so it's suggesting me if I did any activity. For example, at 5:30 in the morning, I could tell it that I did do some activity and it could determine what category that activity is. For example, I could just put household chores and that's it, confirm it, and in this same way I can go about creating more records of other activities. The second index gives us a score of our sleep. In this case I had a score of 67, and note that again it gives us with a graphical representation what parameters we would need to improve, and each of these shows you a little explanation in case you want to know a little more information. Just something that I find a little annoying about the application as a curious fact is that if you press go back, it takes you to the main screen and does not close the dialog. If you want to close this dialog box, just slide it down, but that's something I learned over time. So as you can see, you can make good decisions to improve your sleep or improve your rest based on all the information it has collected about you. It also shows you the total graph of your sleep, so you can see the time you had awake, REM sleep time, light sleep, and deep sleep. It is also able to measure the oxygenation you had while you were sleeping, but this data is not going to give you 24/7 like the smartwatches, but only the sleep time. It also shows you the respiratory stability and a graph of your heart rate, including the peak where the heart rate was the lowest. In addition, it also shows you heart rate variability, which some athletes may take as a very important piece of information when making decisions. So I think it does collect enough information about you while you're sleeping, so that's why I say this seems to be its specialty. And again, you can see on a graph how your sleep has been behaving over the different days. Obviously, if you stopped wearing the ring for a few days, there will be some gaps around here, so it's important that you wear it every day. There is also an activity score, which again will show you various data and where you could improve. In this case, for example, I have not achieved the daily targets that have been set, although all that you can modify as well. And you can again see a graph of how your activity has behaved throughout the day. In addition to all the history that I already mentioned, Note that here it also shows the total calories burned, number of steps, equivalent distance in kilometers, and as I said, the goals to see if you have achieved them or not. And for each of these data, you can also see the graphs to more or less know how your body and your physical activity has behaved. You can also access the heart rate index, which will show you a detailed graph. It can show you the recovery time, it can also show you the stress, although it must be said that sometimes it does not detect anything and sometimes it does, so it is a bit strange. For example, if I go to yesterday, it shows me that I was 30 minutes stressed and it shows the time in a very good way through colors. And in this way, you can more or less explore how your stress was behaving throughout the day. On Friday, for example, 1 hour and 30 minutes. And so you can see how your heart rate behaved along with the stress. For each of these parameters, you can have a more detailed explanation, so I think it does have good information. Though finally, we will also find another stress index specifically that shows you how much time you have been stressed during the day, and again it will show you a graph of today and the past days so that you can more or less see how your body has been behaving. That in general terms is the information that this ring is able to collect about you. As I said at the bottom, it will show exactly the same data, but with different graphs so you can understand it in a different way. And in the chronology, you can manually add the activities you have done. In fact, if you want to have a more detailed analysis of how your body behaves, you can add tags of what activities you did during the day, and over time you can start to detect some patterns, maybe, because you see that you could add, for example, that you felt very physically exhausted, that you used a sleeping mask, that you took caffeine too late, among many other symptoms, let's say, or activities or any kind of thing that you want to take into account when analyzing all your data. You could also add activities manually, as you see, so that in case the ring has not detected it automatically, it can also be considered when doing a particular analysis. As I said, you can also record the heart rate of some kind of training, but only the record will be created and it will not show you in real time what is the heart rate you have at that moment. In the summary tab, again it shows us the same information, so I consider the application to be somewhat redundant, although in this case you can explore your summary over the days, so you can see today's summary view, yesterday's summary view, and all the past days. So in a way, it is useful, but it feels a bit redundant. And finally, the tab called My Health. Here it shows you some other data like resilience. For example, in this case, it says that my stress resilience is good. It will also show you how your cardiovascular age is. Although to show you this data, you have to wear the ring for many days. After several days wearing the ring, it can give you this information. In this case, it tells me that my cardiovascular age is according to my real age. So, in a way, it can also help you to see how your system is working. It also shows you the cardiovascular capacity. Automatically, it can give you a certain parameter, but if you want, you can do a specific test by walking for 6 minutes to give you the most accurate result. At the bottom, it will show you some tips or additional information that you can learn and read, and it will also give you the quality of sleep. And note that the chronotype does not show it to me yet. I need to use the ring for 90 days, for a minimum of 16 hours a day. Here it still doesn't finish analyzing my body in this sense. It's supposed to show me my biological clock. But as I tell you, it needs 3 months of recording. So it is a ring that is going to collect a lot of information and it is going to show you all this information, but with a special subscription. I insist, if you do not have an active subscription, it seems to me that it will only show you some indicators at the top, but you cannot explore more details. However, there is still more information regarding your activity and health that you can explore in the menu. One thing I found interesting is the trends, as it notes that in a couple of taps you can access to see, for example, how your REM sleep has behaved over the whole week or several days that you've been using this ring, or how a certain specific parameter has behaved, for example, the total sleep time. You can explore it here. So I found this trend section very good, and the longer you use the ring, the more history you have to see all the trends of different parameters. Not just sleep, but also disposition, activity, stress. And in this case here, it also shows you relevant trends like heart rate variability over the days, activity time, and sleep efficiency. Here we are also going to find a section of reports that we can export to share with a doctor or someone specific. For example, women could export a menstrual cycle analysis, and you could also export your sleep analysis for the last 7 days. Notice that it generates it in PDF, so you can send it, and it's formatted quite nicely. So I think it's a good tool as well. It also has a section for experimental functions, although in this case it hadn't shown me any options until today that I'm recording. So they've started an experiment called Reduce Caffeine. So you can have this experiment if you usually consume caffeine 6 hours before bedtime and some other things. So you can start this challenge, so to speak, to have some conclusions at the end. Now there's another section called Content that's going to allow you to learn a little bit more information about your body or how you should relax and some other things. And there is also a rest mode that will suspend your daily activity goals. It also includes the heart health section that shows you what I was already showing you a moment ago, and the blood oxygen measurement. However, I insist that this is only going to be done while you sleep. It cannot even perform it on manual request by the user. Therefore, it seems to me that it does not take 100% advantage of the watch's capabilities. Finally, there is the Oura Lab section where there are experimental functions, but for now there are none available. Finally, you can access the settings where, as you realize, you can also manage your subscription, but it sends you to a web page. As part of its additional features, one of its main attractions is that it can connect to Apple's Health Kit. So if you are part of the Apple ecosystem and you are very interested in the Galaxy Ring, this Oura Ring is probably catching your attention. So all of the information that it collects can also be syncing with all of Apple's information for you to use Apple's own platform. If you use Android, it also connects to Google Health Connect, which could be used by other apps. For example, Flow, Clue, and others focused on women's health management can leverage the information from this ring. That's a very strong aspect. It also incorporates another feature called Aura Circles, which is going to allow you to simply have a kind of connection with your friends to see between all of them how their physical activity is. It also integrates a rest mode that will simply pause the goals so that you are not trying to motivate you to reach those goals and you can take a few days off. Also integrated into the app is another section of sleep sounds such as white noise and the like. Or you can manually add some activities that can help you as a reference in the future to analyze all the behavior of your body. For example, you could add that you took some medicine on a certain day, or you could add that you got sick on a certain day, or any other relevant data. The truth is that there are many tags available in the application, and based on all these records, you can make a much more advanced analysis later. If you happen to lose your ring or drop it at some point, if you have an iPhone, you will be able to try to find it on a map. On Android, this option is not available, although remember that it does not have GPS, so it will simply show its last available location when it was connected to your cell phone, but at least it's an attempt to try to find it, although I would have liked to have an option for the lights to turn on, at least to try to find it if it's in a dark environment. And of course, I would also like it to integrate some gesture like to ring your cell phone when you can't find it, which is one of the tools I use the most in a smartwatch. For future generations, I would also like it to integrate a small vibration engine that alerts you of any notification, because for now, if you compare it with the proposal of a smartwatch, obviously it has much more limited functions a ring. However, it is very much aimed at an audience that does not want to have a smartwatch, because maybe they find them ugly or annoying or uncomfortable. So it's a comfortable way to keep some monitoring of your physical activity, but I definitely think it's very targeted at a slightly smaller group of people. Let's move on to the battery, because it's going to vary depending on the size of the ring. Obviously, if you have a larger size ring, it can give you up to 8 days. In my case, I've been using it for several weeks and it's more or less giving me an average of 5 days of battery life, although the manufacturer does not recommend this practice of charging it to 100 and then letting it discharge before putting it back on its charging base. The manufacturer's recommendation is to remove it for a few moments, perhaps while you go to wash dishes or while you go to take a bath. Place it just a few minutes in its base, and with that you will have enough to not have to be waiting a long period of time for it to finish charging. So that use seems to me to be very good and the most recommended. But if you're interested, I did the 0 to 100 charge test. The charger is a small base, obviously it's going to be wireless charging. You simply place the ring on top, it has USB-C connection, and plug it into some charger. In my test, it recovered 38% battery in 15 minutes of charging, so it charges remarkably fast. Within 30 minutes, it had 52% and the full charge finished it in an hour. So I think it's a nice charge, but it's much better to follow the manufacturer's recommendations. Finally, let's talk about connectivity. In this case, it incorporates Bluetooth Low Energy. It will only activate the connection when it is synchronizing data. So also, if you are a little more concerned about this issue of frequencies and the wireless signal that it may be generating, it is something much less invasive than a smartwatch. It even has an airplane mode that you can turn on if you don't want the signal to be running at any time. Obviously, you don't require activating airplane mode on the airplane, but oddly enough, it's called airplane mode. It doesn't have ultra-wideband, which I would have liked, so I could have found it more easily with the cell phone directing it, but that we will surely find in future generations. Finally, it is compatible with both iOS and Android. This is one of its main advantages against the Galaxy Ring, which is only compatible with Samsung. However, I have also tested, for example, the Ultra Human Ring. I have my video review available, and I find that of the 3 rings I have tested, it is the best because it works for both platforms and does not require additional subscription. Basically, it gives you the same functions, although Oura Ring is better integrated with third-party services. For the moment, we have reached the end of this video review. I hope you liked it and got to know everything you wanted to know about this ring. Let me know in the comments what you thought. See you next time.